There's not one time I've turned up into a group and said something and people are like, well, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Ever.
Yeah.
By creating those spaces, having a conversation, you then learn that it's okay and that actually everyone is going through it. Having those conversations is not something to be afraid of. Not having them is more something to be afraid of. I will help millions of people to understand they're not alone.
Your own well-being has shaped the impact and the influence that you're having on many, 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 many others. A statement you made where that anxiety thrives in the darkness is so true and will be eye-opening for people that are also keeping things to themselves.
What is your subjective satisfaction with your life? That question is so broad that doesn't capture what the needs of the business. Can you launch a platform to help people their subjective satisfaction? No, of course you can't, because it's the broadest question in the world.
When it comes to investing in employee health and well-being has declined significantly year on year. Client will say, well, how do I measure the ROI? And almost every organization is different.
Well, the headline things that you're trying to address are the same. How you get there,
Yeah.
they'll be diametrically different from A business to B.
Yep. As much as I will dedicate my life's work and as you're dedicating your life's work to solving for this, it's a really bloody difficult problem to solve. My guest today is the best-selling author of 52 Weeks of Wellbeing. His life work is dedicated to championing, advocating, and building corporate health and well-being. He's the Chief Impact Officer at JAAQ, an award-winning mental health platform in the UK. He's also the Strategic Wellbeing Leader at Bupa and former Global Future of Wellbeing Leader at Deloitte. Have I got that right?
Yeah,
so far so good.
Okay. Yeah, that's good.
He's here in Dubai to build on his fast-growing reputation as an excellent, and I mean excellent, public speaker. This week at WHX here in Dubai, he's a data scientist, he's a corporate strategist, he's a startup alchemist, he's a well-being specialist. He is the one, he is the only. Mr. Ryan Hopkins, welcome.
I think it's a shame there's not an audience.
Yeah, it's you. What? Yeah, get in the car. There you go.
Oh, yeah, awesome.
Thank you. That's it. We're done. Thank you. Thanks for going.
Cheers for coming. Nice fun.
Yeah. I'm glad I can make you laugh. That's what I'm here for.
It was amazing.
Welcome to Well On Our Way. We are back. Actually, let me just make a point. Well On Our Way had a longer than expected pause, but I'm really, really pleased to be back and welcoming you on to the pod. So thank you for coming.
It's a no-brainer. When I was here, I knew we had to make this happen.
We had to make this happen.
Yeah.
So we got connected actually. So we should shout out to Josh who connected us, I think, a year or so ago, I guess. And yeah, it's nice to, like we were just saying, it's nice to actually meet in person. Dubai does a brilliant job of actually bringing people together. So yeah, we're back. Well On Our Way is back. Ryan is the first guest, non-Dubai founder guest, but what a very special guest you are. So thanks for coming and look forward to digging into your journey and talking about how your own well-being has shaped the impact and the influence that you're having on many, 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 many others. So if I may, let's start there. If you could tell me a point in time where you felt at your lowest and how you pulled yourself up. Let's go real deep, real quick.
Yeah, which one do you want to go into?
You choose your poison.
Delicious. What way to start?
Yeah.
No, I don't know. There's plenty of ways to badge it. I was thinking about the other day, I hosted an event for NatWest and they do amazing work in the wellbeing space and they've been really fortunate to work with them. There's a first business client, it's like a whale. Do you know what I mean? And they were like, yeah, we'll give this scrappy staff a go. But because of that, we've done loads of work with them. They were like, would you host an eating disorder panel? And I was like, be my pleasure.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't look at it, but I guess you wouldn't look at anyone and think they had one. But you especially probably would look at myself and think, that's someone who I struggled with eating disorders, bulimia in my 20s.
Okay.
I was rugby playing electrician or a sparky, as they're colloquially called in the UK. And that was my identity. That was everything. That's who I was. I turned up on a weekend. I play rugby. I'm on a building site. Do you know what I mean? I'm starting to get a few tattoos, as you can see.
1 or 2.
Yeah, that's it. They're a bit better now. I can afford nicer ones.
Filled in the gaps.
Exactly. A couple of cover-ups. But so, that was who I was, and I loved it. And school wasn't really a thing. I had a difficult family situation, undiagnosed autism. So unsurprisingly, didn't do that well in my GCSEs or A-levels. So then it was a trade, and that was it. It's brilliant. I would have had a happy life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I would have been sweet, sound as a pound, living in Hastings, no problems.
Yep.
But I had an accident playing rugby, and spiral fractured my leg, dislocated my ankle. You know, on those pictures on Instagram, you're yes, I do want to see the picture. One of those.
But no, you really don't. Yeah, you think you do.
It's like, it's in the wrong way.
Yeah.
And the paramedics came in, it's like facing the wrong way. There's no pulse in my foot. They're like, Mr. Hopkins, that doesn't look good. And I'm like, I'm acutely aware. I'm like, face down, me and my foot up in the air. So they said, we got to put that back in because you're going to lose your foot. So like 3, 2, 1, pushed it back in. Didn't know leg was broke. So pushed all the bones up the leg. So there's a year recovery.
Yeah.
I was in a wheelchair most of the time. I lost my job as an electrician. I couldn't train. I was in debt because I was an apprentice at the time. So everything I had was basically running to zero every month. So then, yeah, towards the end of that year, I was struggling so much. I was really quite depressed and was in a place where I wanted to end my own life. And if it wasn't for my mum and my nan, I would have done so. So big up to all the mums, nans, dads and granddads, you know what I mean? Help people more than they know.
Yeah.
So after that, I started to walk again, got a job in a bank on the counter. I was pretty good. I was the best salesperson in the UK. I was second best, let's be honest, but I was bloody good. And I started,
if you don't mind saying so yourself.
Exactly. I was cool. Well, the results speak for themselves. So,
Data doesn't like.
well, it's called data manipulation for a reason, but we'll get to that in a minute. But so it's Karl Popper who said you can find data to essentially justify any action if you look hard enough. Anyway, we'll digress it.
Yeah.
So I started to lose the weight a little bit.
Yep.
Going to the gym again, started counting calories, then looking at bodybuilding articles. Then it became an obsession, which I understand those behaviors now with the autism better, but I didn't at the time.
Yeah.
And led to me focusing more and more and more and more. And then eventually I was only eating chicken and broccoli and then essentially made for myself. So if it was anything else, once or just a 1 mint, and I went to the toilet and had to deal with it. It was, yeah, really, really horrible. But you can't tell anyone because it actually thrives in that shame. You say, how can I do something like that? Like, how embarrassing, it's disgusting. Like, people are going to look down on me. And one day I lost so much weight, take pictures every day, weigh myself every day. Then the ladies in the bank who treated me like an adopted son said, you really don't look well. And I was struggling to get my words out. I think I was a week from going into hospital.
Yeah.
And called my mum. They said, you better call your mum. See, all treated me like a lot. They love me. They're people.
Yeah.
Sat down with mum, didn't say anything. And she just said, I know. So then we didn't say much for a long time.
Yeah.
She had a slice of cake and cried a lot.
Yeah. It's funny how mums just know.
Those are.
Yeah.
Whether you tell them or you
Yeah,
they just trust me.
Yeah.
Right. And that was how that journey of recovery began. But it was a very long time that I felt like I was a freak and the only person in the world who was like this. So that's probably where I struggled the most, I think.
And what age was this?
I was at 20. 21.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so from the depths of that struggle, if I can call it that.
Yeah, of course.
How did that take you to where you are today? So talk us through that very winding, zigzaggy pathway, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Because already it's taken a bit of a step change from an apprentice Sparky, if I may use that term. You know, one of my best mates is a Sparky as well, so it's said affectionately. From an apprentice Sparky playing rugby, I assume you didn't play rugby either straight away or ever again?
No.
Perhaps after
For a long time.
Yeah. So, you know, to going to working in a bank and, you know, developing a bodybuilding obsession, as you've called it, that's already a step change, right? So there's already two very winding pathways in this story, and we've only just got started. So where do you go from there? How do you dig yourself out? You obviously, you mentioned your mum. Again, you know, we can't stress the importance that the parents play, whether it's a
Best well-being intervention in the world.
100%. Yeah. You know, you can say anything to them despite what you think, you know, and very rarely is there judgment, but it's not used enough, particularly I would say from blokes, right? Especially at like the age of 20 or 21, where now you're a man and, you know, you should take on all of the, exactly. Yeah. Pull yourself together and, you know, be a man. I think, you know, you're doing wonders for breaking down that stigma or that label, if you will, but easier said than done.
Definitely.
So what happened from there, and how did that kind of kick you onto the path?
That's just the start, right?
Oh, right. This the tip of the iceberg. Right, let's go. Let's keep going.
So after that I met a girl and she was a free spirit and she was like, do you want to travel to South America? I could scratch together about $1,000 at that point, all in. Sold my car, which was worth £500. Like, it was hard. Like the ones you see.
Did it have wheels?
Just about.
3.
There's a Reliant Weekend.
Perfect. Yeah.
Nice to get foreign to cook for that. £1,500. So we got the cheapest flights possible to Buenos Aires. Then traveled around South America for about a year, just working for a bed and food. I had a little book, and every time I heard a word I didn't understand, I would cover the practice each night, and was fluent within 6 months. And worked on a farm in Argentina. The first words I learned were like carretilla, like the wheelbarrow, and la manga, like the hose pipe. Yeah. And I used to milk the cow every morning, and like the cow would kick, some reason I was not very good at it, maybe I was squeezing a bit hard, but he would kick the bucket over and I'd come back with like an empty bucket, and I didn't speak any Spanish. They went, Brian, ¿qué pasó? Like, what happened? And I'm like, I'm so sorry. They stopped asking me to do it eventually.
Oh, well done.
I taught in a school in Chile. We worked in hostels around the continent. We made our way up on local buses and stuff to Ecuador, where we helped an indigenous family set up a hostel business on the side of a mountain, Otavalos, who were building the huts.
Nice.
Went to the bank with them to help them get the loan.
Yep.
We paid like a little bit of capital to help them get set up. And then, yeah, I just thought like for the first time in my life then I could do more than my station. I was like, literally my friends and my family, they're tradespeople. That's what they do. My mum's a nurse. Like, yeah, fine, absolutely fine. Like, I would have been so happy doing that. But I thought, no, I think I can do some business or something international. Like, I've chucked myself into this situation. I've got it done.
Yeah.
So I applied to go to uni, and the only uni that would have me was like the worst uni on the Sunday Times list, because I didn't have diddly squat with regards to A-levels or GCSEs.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, yeah, we'll give them a go. Like a wild card entry. Yeah. Applied when first year there, worked part-time in Arsenal Football Stadium during like the year, which was cool. So I met like Thierry Henry and stuff. Like, it was really fun.
Yeah.
And worked my butt off and got a high first in my first year, transferred to Oxford Brookes. I wanted to see if I could move up unis halfway through. Put a lot of pressure on myself at this point. So I was like, you don't get another shot at this. And eventually got so anxious when I was there, like I felt like I was going to piss myself every time I left the front door.
Right.
So during the third year, I was essentially like, what's it when you can't leave the house? I forget the name of it. Agoraphobia, and that was something. That was like the spider one.
That's arachnophobia. But
I'm being appreciative. I was going to say xenophobia. That's definitely not.
Well, we're really zigzagging.
That's definitely not.
Yeah.
So
besides the way you couldn't leave the house.
yeah, that's it. Whatever it's called, right? So I couldn't do that. I was playing rugby again. Again, I was like got really big, like body, like muscles and stuff, like training loads again. But then it was going the other way. So I thought, if I'm lean, I'm not happy. I'm gonna go really big.
Yeah.
But still not happy. I was working as a bouncer part-time then. So like on the surface, I'd look quite confident.
Right.
But then the inside, I was so nervous. I felt like I was going to wet myself.
Yeah.
I was ending up wearing like adult diapers in my third year. So I was so anxious about it.
Wow.
So yes, that was another tough time. But did finish uni. I got a first class degree and got eventually, after like hundreds of grad applications, loads of final interviews. I'd read books on how to interview because I didn't know anyone that had done those sorts of things. And I was like trying to peacock, so I thought that was the way to go. So these luminescent ties. No, they were like, we'll see you next time. I was like, yes, you will.
Yeah.
Overconfident, didn't get those jobs. I'm surprised. Yeah. Just trying to follow like the book and what it said and what to do, but that's definitely not it. So got an interview at Deloitte. One of my friends worked there, and he was kind enough to spend a lot of time with me and teach me everything about the business. So I knew when to interview. I knew how to speak the lingo. I knew their practice development, business development, what client side looks like, what they do when they're on the bench, when they're not there. Yeah. I got the job, and I was like the world's oldest graduate, like Robert De Niro. I say like, we'll bid the Google office. Like, all right, kids, TikTok, am I right? Because I worked around the world and done a load of stuff. So I was quite a bit older than the others, but I think that was really good for me at the time. I was working in digital transformation, worked with some amazing clients, but it wasn't really what I cared about. I was found myself gravitating towards setting up like small well-being functions and teams and groups and communities like side of desk. Eventually I worked in a team that set up like Deloitte's ways of working for the whole business, launched like a well-being program at Dyson, and I was like, okay, this is what I want to be doing. Moved into human capital, sideways to do more of this work, but I found it again, it was on big like HR system transformation. Honestly, I couldn't care less. So
fair enough.
But the skills were great. I learned these 1,000-line Microsoft project plans, how to like organize huge groups, big projects, demand deadlines. Then so I was like, I'm going to leave because I want to do this full time. This is what I need to do.
Yep.
So I went to Sainsbury's to lead wellbeing there during the pandemic.
All right.
With Sainsbury's Tech, like the head office. Mm-hmm. We were able to improve NPS by like focusing on the people without spending a penny, by just creating communities, groups. We had like a backlog of needs where we share all the data openly and say these experiments we're doing to address. So it was like an organizational approach rather than individual interventions.
Yeah.
Got made redundant. So I was like, brilliant.
Perfect.
Went to a big fintech called Finastra where we focus on like digital balance. So I created the think around how we can use tech to create space. Like optimizing the Microsoft technology of 10,000 people, say 2.4 million hours. It was brilliant. We cut attrition. I got made redundant again. But speaking now publicly about all of this work. So if you want to be a leader in this space, you've got to show up and start making noise.
Right. Yeah.
And if you know what you're talking about, eventually, I think if you keep turning with the right energy enough, people will say, okay, well, maybe we want to listen to this bloke. Maybe.
Yeah.
So really started to pick up some traction. I started a show called Toilet Break Wellbeing. So it's like you flourish. And it's like videos on the toilet about how little wellbeing things make a huge difference. And whether it's you do it after the toilet or something else, that's all there ever is.
Yeah.
And partly an homage to the fact that when I was so anxious, I felt like I was going to wet myself. So just to trivialize that worry that I had. And each time I did it, I felt like the shame, this like was just dissipating. And I could talk about this stuff like this really openly. Whereas for most of my life, I didn't tell us how. Apart from my mum. And then started to get some real traction. Then I spoke to Deloitte again. They're like, do you want to come back and build that wellbeing consultancy? And I was like, yeah, let's go.
Nice.
So then came back. Then I got my first TED talk. Then Toilet Break Wellbeing turned into a book after like almost like 200 episodes. I've written it all.
200?
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't realize I did that many.
So many. We're doing it every single week. So through that period. So I had all these chapters essentially like ready to go. So I put it into book proposal. Brilliant. That turned into 52 Weeks of Wellbeing, which became a bestseller in the UK. It's now launched in 6 different countries. And with the work with Deloitte, it was focused on how can we optimize the business, take a data-led approach to create the systems and space where people can do what they need, rather than putting individual interventions into a system that doesn't enable them to be used. And it's like developing the thinking around how it could be data-led. So we worked with like the World Business Council, we worked with businesses all around the world, governments in the Middle East, delivered work on 4 continents, positively impacted lives over 1 million people, which is amazing. And then JAAQ, I saw JAAQ. I thought this is a platform that can change the world. And with Deloitte, you can only work with clients that can afford your work. With JAAQ, it's something that can, I believe, help millions. Which is why I left to be employee number 8. And since then, we've answered 1.6 million questions. We launched a platform for kids, and I truly believe we will engage 1 billion people with this platform. So that's how we got to here.
So we are. Well, that is an incredible journey. We're going to try and break it down a little bit over the rest of the conversation. If I can just rewind a little bit back to the anxiety, the crippling anxiety, really, physically, mentally, everything. And again, I think people have a lot of misconceptions around what anxiety is, what it isn't, how it can materialize and kind of either escape people or not. In your case, it was fear of wetting yourself and not being able to.
It showed up. It was so bizarre. Just one day, just had to get off a bus in the middle of the motorway.
So just like that,
Anxiety, panic attack. I had to get off. Then that behavior was it. Every time I was somewhere not near it, I panicked.
And so, I'm sure, and the purpose of this podcast, along with many other podcasts and all of the great work you've done, whether it's the toilet breaks or the books or the talks, the book or the talks you do, is about kind of just surfacing how these problems, become about, right? How they, like you said, just one random bus ride, all of a sudden this problem happened for you. I guess the point I want to really dig in on is, you said you felt like you were a bouncer, you were working, you were at university, you were playing rugby, and I think you said
I was.
Again, there's this facade you think you have to put on. How did you find the way to breaking down that facade, I guess, is my question.
With difficulty.
Obviously. Yeah.
Because you feel like you can put the mask on, then head out into public, and then it's okay. Whereas now, I don't wear one if I'm with my mum, I'm with you, I'm at a conference. I was walking around in shorts there, so I was getting a few looks, but I will wear trousers for the big conference. But I started to share that piece like one at a time, and it wasn't like one day I was so anxious I was going to piss myself, I was bulimic, I was depressed, I wanted to kill myself. Like, that is too much. But what I found was when I created the space, and I said I was depressed once, and that was as much as I shared. I was like, oh, I'm feeling it too. I had this, I had that. there's not one time I've turned up into a group and said something and people are like, well, you're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
I mean, ever.
Yeah. Yeah.
And by creating those spaces, having a conversation, you then learn that it's okay and that actually everyone is going through it.
Yep.
1 in 4 people in the UK are experiencing some form of poor mental health or a symptom of a common mental health disorder.
Yep.
Then that's 1 in 3 for young people. So if it isn't you now, it probably was. If not, it's someone you care about very much.
Yeah.
I guarantee.
Yep.
Every single person you know.
Yep.
And when you have those conversations, be it about bulimia or anxiety or depression, someone is going through it, and then they're always going to be like, okay. Then you feel and you learn that having those conversations is not something to be afraid of. Not having them is more something to be afraid of.
Yeah.
And you think about how I felt when I had to pretend like everything was okay when I put the flipping up and I get down the door. That's not okay.
No.
Whereas now, by sharing that, you shine a light on it, and the shame exists and thrives in the darkness. Whereas there's none now.
Yeah.
Nothing to be ashamed about. Nothing to hide.
Yeah.
I turn up. I know if I'm speaking before I speak with you, I might feel a little bit anxious, get the butterfly. But it's because I care and I like it. I'll go on the stage. I'll be nervous tomorrow, and that feeling always comes back a little bit.
Yeah.
But I walk around. I go toilet backstage before I go, and I go straight on. Job done.
Yep.
And before, when the nerves have really built, I feel like I'm going to wet myself to a load of people. I say it aloud, and then it just dissipates. It just goes away. Trying to hide it is the issue.
Yeah.
And you learn slowly by having each conversation that it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And trust me, people, whether that you could be the first person they've spoken to about this subject, and that'll change their life. Like first conversation.
Yeah.
I've had quite a few of those with people after events and stuff, and it's a privilege. So obviously I would have done anything when I was young, 21, to step in someone else's shoes. I would anything, hated myself.
Yeah.
Whereas now I wouldn't change a thing because I get to turn up and hopefully help I will help millions of people to understand they're not alone.
Well, you are, right?
Yeah.
I think that's evident, right? Again, whether it's through your content on socials, whether it's through your book, the work you do, the talks you do. I think that kind of the statement you made where that anxiety thrives in the darkness is so true and will be so eye-opening for people that are also keeping things to themselves. And it's really, really important.
The first conversation is the hardest.
Yeah.
And there's the way you're going to feel about that, you're going to feel everything's going to eat you up. It's all going to come simple. As soon as you start.
As soon as that
think
dot of light, starts shining.
Think about how the conversation is going to go.
Yeah.
Just sit down with someone, I'm struggling a bit.
Yeah.
And then don't think beyond that.
Yeah.
Because what will happen. If you're sitting down with someone that cares about you, they'll support you.
Yeah. And the reason why I kind of dig into this topic, not because I want to keep prodding at you, but the purpose of being here, thank you. The purpose of being here is to talk about particularly founders, because it is a especially lonely place to be. You are, at the top of an organization. You are ultimately responsible for everything, whether it's raising money. We talked about fundraising briefly, as we were walking here, payroll, hiring, firing, everything that goes right, everything that goes wrong. And all eyes are on you all the time. And you very often don't have time for anything else other than the business and keeping it going somehow, some way. So it is a very lonely place. And I think, from my own experience, you do become quite isolated. And it's then even harder to talk to people because you've got to be this always on, always there figurehead, making good decisions. And it's tough. And the purpose of this podcast is to shine a light on that, to say, it is tough, and no, I wouldn't have it any other way. This is all I can ever really remember doing and all I ever really want to do. But it doesn't make it easy. And I think that's the facade, particularly if you look at entrepreneurs on LinkedIn or Instagram or TikTok even, it's very glamorous, very shiny, all very nice.
So it's like a bifurcation of the content on there. So it's like extreme either way. So they're either holistic prince and princesses who prioritize everything they need, absolute neglect of everything else because they are their priority, or it's absolute hustle, bro. But the magic and the reality should be in the middle of the two, shouldn't it? But then there's going to be a pendulum. There's times that you got to get it done. Let's not be on both. You got a business to do, you got payroll to make, so you're going to have to do the work. Let's be real. But that's a short-term solution. Over the long term, we spoke about it. It's about finding out how you go for a walk in the evenings, right? Stomp the block, but you prioritize that like it's going out of fashion and make space for it. Because if you do that, then you can turn up for everyone else.
Absolutely.
You need to have like a healthish attitude, to be selfish with your health. Because I think it's peaks and troughs in the short term, but over the long term, you need to make sure you're prioritizing things you need to be your best self. And that isn't an hour class every day that isn't a really expensive course. That doesn't necessarily, it could be level, it could be JAAQ, wherever you need courses, but it's actually about the little things.
Yeah.
Because if you improve by 1% every day, you're 3,778% better at the end of the year with compound interest. If you do 10 press-ups every time you went to the toilet, you do 29,200 press-ups this year. It's about the little moments, and that's all there ever is. And we confuse it because we think well-being is this massive thing, but well-being is no small thing, but made up of small things. And it's about those micro habits over the day that accumulate.
Yep.
So then actually that's quite freeing to a founder who's time poor.
Yeah.
But they don't need to have a multitude of time. They need to focus on having quality time to the little things they need over time.
Yeah. No, I'm a big believer in that marginal gains theory or compounding performance. And like you say, whether it's going for a walk, whether it's going to the gym, it doesn't have to be expensive. It doesn't have to be a huge time commitment, but there has to be a commitment.
Well,
I
even
think that's the...
if you're like work, you know, like you got non-exercise like thermogenesis, is how you burn about 20% or 15% of your calories total. Exercise is 5% often. And you got like essentially the thermic effect of burning food. So if you're just fidgeting during the day for 8 hours and you like shake your leg for 8 hours and you're fidgeting around, you'll burn about 300 calories.
Yeah.
Which is about 20 pounds over a year. So it's actually about like the little things.
Yeah.
Just prioritize some little movement.
Yep.
And then those things over time will accumulate, like you say.
Yep. No, 100%. You know, for me, I have a standing desk at home when I'm working.
Like this.
We have a standing podcast studio. Yeah, it is important, and they do add up. And you know, there's, you know, I did a bit of a humble brag recently around my WOOW page. I don't know if you were a WOOW or anything, but you know,
as you stop wearing it, because I obsess too much on it.
Well, that makes sense. Yeah. But for me, you know, I recently turned 39. Showing that my WOOW page is 30.
Well, you're not younger than me.
Was 34. So there you go. So I'm doing something right.
Yeah.
So yeah, and it is important because it's so easy to allow everything else to take over. Not just from a business perspective. I have a wife. I have 2 young boys. You know, they want, you know, as much of my time as I can give them as well. And I want to give them as much of my time, but I also want to give them the best of me, not just whatever I've got left. And if I didn't ruthlessly prioritize either going to the gym or going for a walk or going for a run or playing football, and I think, you know, you do have to have an outlet that gives you that release, that stress release. Again, some people like playing football, rugby, you know, for you back in the day, perhaps paddle is very big here in Dubai. Something that's competitive.
Mine's going to be setting a world record now, but that's another story.
Well, we'll come on to that in a minute. Before we go there, I wanted to go back again to, you said Sainsbury's, and you generated cost savings, you know, without actually spending any pennies or pounds.
Yeah.
Now, we actually connected over, you know, a mutual interest and love for, you know, helping organizations and employees within those organizations better prioritize their health and well-being, you know, on a general level. It astounds me still to this day, and Level is now in its 9th year of existence. It astounds me as how many organizations could make material gains, whether that's financial, human, you know, you mentioned NPS, multiple different gains across the business, productivity, you name it. Like, there's a whole bunch of benefits that are there for the taking that would cost them nothing if they just tried, if they just looked at the data, and if they took a moment to think about it and maybe course correct or just even communicate differently. This is a very difficult question to answer, so I'm going to hedge it in the first place. No. But you're also very experienced in this space. Why do you think this still happens in 2025, in the age of, you know, big data sets, in the age of AI, everything? How on earth is this still possible?
It's such a good question. I think I wrote about the garbage theory recently, the organizational garbage theory, and I think this has a lot to explain.
Okay. Enlighten me and enlighten the audience.
So essentially garbage in, garbage out. And if you've got rubbish processes and systems, what we're doing now is layering over Claude, whatever it is, over the top and expecting some real benefit to be found. Study of Danish organizations found that 1% of companies of about 300,000 employees found any impact at all at an organizational level of launching these chatbots or LLMs.
Yeah.
And it's quite unsurprising when you look over people's shoulders and you see they're like, well, what can I do with a carrot and like half a tin of beans? And that's about the level of the conversation, or like maturity that we're at for most people. And that's because they're plastering this over a system where the data inputs are bad.
Yeah.
Think about absenteeism. If it's just a drop down and doesn't cover the categories, you need to understand the impact. You're never going to get that clear picture. Then it's not going to be a business priority because they're worried about the tariffs in the US.
Yeah.
They're worried about keeping the lights on.
Yeah.
And because we don't have that clear picture, there's not a clear picture that we need to do anything to address the change. And then the people in the well-being space use the generic research to then communicate the value of their work rather than actualized impact over time with an organization, which I think at first advanced the conversation, but now pulls it backwards. Because it isn't real impact of what they've launched. And while they're the best people in the world and they get into it because they want to care, they don't understand the business they're launching into.
Yeah.
And the business itself would be better served if there's two sides to the coin that we've often failed to understand as well. You've got the organizational side and the individual side.
Yeah.
It's not an organization's responsibility to improve happiness, but it is their responsibility not to worsen it. And when we flip that switch, we stop looking at like happy clappy events and we say, so how can we reduce the meeting culture? Can we turn up the autonomy? Can we give people a little bit of flexibility? Can we make sure we got equitable pay? That's what matters. We create the system, the flexibility, mapped against belonging because they often involve on a spectrum. When you push for more flexibility, you lose that sense of cohesion. When you push for in-person cohesion, you lose the flexibility. Then maximize agency, which is absolutely key, agency or autonomy. Then you can have a level and that will change lives, as we know. Right? But if you have 5 minutes spare this side of Christmas, it's going to be impossible for someone to find the real value out. Well, they'll find little bits, right? As I said, it's about getting the micro changes. So go back to that garbage theory, right? And we think about the things that can come underneath it. If the categories for absenteeism are not clear, but it's not understood, the business case, you can then apply some research elsewhere to paint the picture. The biggest cost is often about attrition, which is like 6 times the amount of lost money compared to absenteeism. But we don't know because we don't do good exit interviews. We don't have a clear drop down. We don't. If someone submits in Workday, they're already checking out, right? They're not going to give you the information you need. Instead, we should be thinking about pre-exit interviews when people have got stuff start to get the rationale. You paint that picture, 57% of all exits apparently are partially attributable to mental health related issues. You work out that cost, it takes 10 months salary to retrain someone. All you got to do is reduce attrition by 2 people next year and you've paid off your level, JAAQ, and probably a PS. And I know in the work that we've done, we've seen that impact, right? NatWest, we helped them reduce mental health absence by 6.9% because we benchmarked it. We worked with them. We looked at their essentially the feedback and we focused the content around the subjects that we're really struggling with. Lo and behold, impact is felt. Same with Bupa, right? Struggling to get people to use their benefits. You wouldn't think that Bupa struggle to get people to use the Bupa benefits, but they do. If you focus on content for cash plan dental, record utilization of cash plan dental. So in Pulse, we're taking a data-led approach. But the well-being companies, they want to get into it, they want to help, but then they need help from the business themselves to give them the data they need to then communicate the effort. But the business people are flat out busy. They want something to do it quickly because then they're moving on to something else. So it's going to take us to stop, pause, and a brave chief people officer or CHRO to mark their own homework and find out there's work to be done. And then if they do set that stall and say, okay, this is the priority for the business, this is where we are, what happens then if it doesn't have the impact? Whose head's on the chopping block? So it's going to take some real bravery, I think, to move people forwards, but it's coming.
It is coming in. And again, some data exists, but I think it's safe to say that in most cases that data is incomplete. There's gaping holes in it, in fact.
There's no benchmark then that's like reliable.
Correct. And even with AI, whether it's LLMs or AI agents, it doesn't matter because the data you have simply isn't enough to paint the whole picture and gives you, a complete strategy on how to fix the actual problems that exist. And like you say, platforms like Level, and we often say this to clients we're talking to, is that actually we may not be the solution here, in that there's other things you need to do first. And there's other quite vocal critics, if you will, of platforms like Level, of JAAQ, of like plastering over the cracks. Is that, well, no, that's not our choice, right? That's absolutely not our choice. It's the business's choice to not invest deeply enough on enough time.
That research is really interesting. You point to it. It's picked up by all the papers in the UK. Well-being at West time. No, wrong. They asked the question. They asked the point A, what is your subjective satisfaction with your life? That question is so broad that doesn't capture what the needs of the business. Can you launch a platform to help people with their subjective satisfaction? No, of course you can't, because it's the broadest question in the world. It's subjective. So what they found was that financial well-being essentially are worsening. 7 out of 11 interventions actually worsened that subjective well-being over a period. That doesn't say to me that financial well-being is worse. It says actually the question is wrong. So if someone's gone through a financial literacy education, they tighten their belt, they stop spending as much money on takeaways. Are you happier? No, of course you're not. Are you setting yourself up for long-term success or potentially the ability to retire before 98? Yeah, you are. So the question's wrong. But then they found that volunteering was best. That doesn't say to me that volunteering is best either. Rather, someone that finds themselves in a position where they can volunteer, where they're not picking their kids up and or working a second job.
Yeah.
So then that speaks to the environment. So we know these individual interventions can work. Will they work for everyone? No. Will they work for some? Absolutely. What are the things that work for everyone? No. If you're working on a laptop, that's where we start.
Yeah.
We spend 57% of our days responding to emails, instant messages, sitting on calls, talking about the work we're meant to be doing the 33 a day. No wonder we're burnt out.
Yeah.
I imagine when this gets fixed, burnout will be a relic of the past.
Yeah.
It's because of the increasingly transactional nature of work with no clear connection to the why of the company or greater contribution, a sense of connection or cohesion. Increasingly transactional, which AI agents are going to push us that way.
Yep.
So we have to try and make sure we create the space for what's important, which is working with one another.
Yep.
So that's where we focus. We focus on the meeting, the team stuff, the emails, because Microsoft say apparently you're distracted every 2 minutes in their latest Future of Work report. And their solution for that was their new Copilot agent. How rich. So sorry we created this issue for you.
Yeah.
Come and get on board, we'll fix it. But are we optimizing?
Going to solve a distraction with another distraction.
But do we need to optimize emails? Do we need to look at the work itself and see how we can serve customers faster? We're looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And we're like, so we need to like reposition how we look at this. You get the data right that underpins it all. Only 1-2% of companies in the UK we found are doing that assessment.
Yeah.
So 98% are working with best intention, but then a poor data set, which doesn't enable them to start from a right footing. And then they can't communicate the value of their work. So when it comes up for renewal, or there's something else going on, it gets dropped.
Yep.
And then it disappoints the people who do like it. But actually the success of that is then predicated on the amount they can engage. If the comms team own the agenda, but then the benefits team can't communicate it beyond the benefits window, it will not be used.
Yeah.
It has to be where the eyes are. And if you think of digital people, that's integrated into Teams and Slack. That's where we spend our day.
Yeah.
If you're on a shop floor, or if you're working in a kitchen, like we saw like Kitopia here, right?
Yeah.
You need a poster with a QR code. You need to do pay slips, QR codes.
Yeah.
You got to think about where the eyes are. So it takes much more thought than just, here you go, put it live.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder why it's not working.
Put it out there and see what happens. Yeah. So I guess the call to action here is, if you are a brave chief HR officer, chief people officer, get in touch. You know, Ryan and myself want to hear from you. We want to fix the world of workplace well-being and actually build from the ground up. You know, start building solid data infrastructure.
And they're amazing people unless you want to.
100%. So it would be interesting to see if anyone does reach out and see if they're up for the challenge. You mentioned Bupa, you mentioned health insurance. Tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing with Bupa and why it's exciting, and then we'll shift on to JAAQ, but it may probably naturally segment.
Yeah, of course. So the work at Deloitte I loved. Like the thinking we got to develop. I was fortunate to work with some amazing people who gave me the space.
Yeah.
And I was a different kettle of fish, as I was saying in the UK, or basically a very different proposition for Deloitte to push the market. Normally it takes a long time, lots of research, partly as hobnobbing around the world. It could cost millions to get something live, whereas I was sharing videos of me on the toilet, right? So, yeah.
As far as extremes go,
it was,
yeah.
And it was difficult there to get stuff done because they're set up to be this huge organization. You got to go through steps. I was jumping around steps to try and make this business, but if you can stand something up, you got projects running and you got a commercially viable business, it's a different conversation. People tend to leave you alone.
Yeah.
So we set that up, and that thinking was amazing to make it data-led. I'm taking that, I utilize that thinking at JAAQ so we can communicate the impact with Workday, with Nationwide, with NatWest, with Boop, with all of our clients to make sure they understand the impact of what we're doing in the business. So that's been amazing. We've got some amazing proof points. Is it perfect? No, because we rely on other bits of data. We're getting better? Absolutely. So with Boop, I said, because they got their reporting, the one Boop, as the clients get this, and they'll see how many people have used the pathways, how many have come to MSK, mental health, where they've accessed, what they've accessed.
Yep.
But that tells like one layer of the story, and it's up to interpretation. So I said, I think we can make this better and work with clients and make it like we can start to then predict where it's heading. So I just looked at the pathways. If you look at the top of the pathways, if people come in through other GP, like NHS GP or like a referral elsewhere, the average cost compared to virtual GP is about 38% higher, because they're getting triaged to more severe interventions where people going through digital pathways, they're going in earlier, so they actually need less.
Yeah.
So that cost over a scheme is eye-watering. And that's real low-hanging fruit to say to people, actually, you will get an appointment up to 14 days faster if you're in the UK, because that's the wait for a lot of people with the NHS. The private is probably different.
Much different.
Yeah. But if you go to virtual GP, you'll get an appointment often same day, if not next day. And we can get you to where you need faster and hopefully with a less severe treatment plan.
Yeah.
So with mental health, for instance, 70.8% of all triage is sent to therapy. Whereas actually, if you look at a National Institute of Clinical Excellence, where you're meant to send people to, 76% are meant to be sent psychoeducation, guided self-help to a level
Yeah.
or a JAAQ.
Yeah.
Whereas actually the vast majority are being sent to a more severe treatment pathway because we want to support them. And the triager is making sure they get adequate needs.
Yeah.
Then it isn't what that person needs at that time. And perhaps they would have been served by something which is essentially low to zero cost.
Yeah.
As opposed to £1,060 average treatment cost of therapies. And this is costing the person time where we could have met them earlier.
Yep.
And also the business and then also the healthcare organisation. So what we do is we're painting this out. And actually X% of people coming into these pathways, we can optimize by pushing people down ABC routes over this window. Then we extrapolate it over time. Then we look at how the behavior change behind pathways, the technical requirements to integrate into the system. And then we work with the business to say, actually, how can we get people into these funnels earlier? How can we redefine how people access care?
Yeah.
Do we need to integrate here? Do we actually need to get leaders to share stories? And we get into the power of each of those things. At Deloitte, we did a piece of research. We found 97% of leaders think they're responsible for the well-being of their team. There's always outliers. I hope the 2% are not your league. See what I mean?
I hope so too.
Yeah. But then we asked the same cohort, do you exemplify the behaviours you expect of your team? And then 30% said they did. So do as I say, not as I do. But what we see creates a psychological contract, right?
100%. Yeah.
So people say, don't eat lunch at your desk here. That's not what we do. But then you see A, B, C leaders scoffing down a sandwich out of Besco, right? That's what you're going to do.
Yeah.
So what we're saying is, so we look at the pathways from all different sorts of angles, technical, behavioural, data-led, looking over time, extrapolating trends. It's a different conversation where clients normally have about PMI. So we're painting a scenario of non-action and we say, actually, this is where we want to be to make it optimized. Then we work with the clients actually to run through this, extrapolate trends over time, show the potential impact of people going all sick as a result of not going through the efficient pathways. And now we're starting to get into a case where we're creating impact frameworks to help them understand essentially how the opportunity to get people in faster. And then this has been amazing. So we work with companies spanning like 138,000 employees in the UK.
Wow.
And now we're working through essentially like a huge opportunity to augment and improve those pathways and then launching health assessments for a few of them to then make sure we can get into preventative care and offset treatments down the road. So this has been amazing. So we do these like 2-hour masterclasses with clients and we support them through 12 weeks and now we're going to be scaling that up.
Yep.
And then developing that thinking hopefully for the whole business. So this is almost our Trojan horse for augmenting like the information reporting as standard. And as a piece of work, they're already like ahead with regards to reporting. I said, by making some of these changes and linking in title of the business, you can then communicate the effort of these schemes over time. And honestly, that gap there is going to be so valuable, not only for the business, but for the healthcare scene and for the broker.
Yeah.
And it's not touched.
Yeah.
And I'm just so excited to step into that space and continue to develop the learning.
Yeah.
Because I just see that being the biggest piece and the impact on individuals will be profound. And then eventually when all the MIs improve, then we can start feeding it into the individual and say, did you know if you access this pathway, you could have got in 7 days faster, empowering smarter people to manage care their own way.
Yeah.
Making it live. Then we can communicate how effective that's been. You went through the efficient advanced physio pathway. We know that actually that probably the reason you didn't have surgery is because you went down this pathway. Isn't that great?
Yeah.
And you're back to health a lot faster. Like I had my bicep repaired about 9 weeks ago.
Yeah, how is it?
It's going all right, actually.
That's good.
Yeah, it's starting to train up a body again, which is really nice, but the recovery's been amazing.
Yeah.
So imagine if we could then say, actually, the average recovery is X. You've recovered in Y window. Then actually the business understands that you took 3 days less sick than the average person who's had a bicep recovery because of the scheme, and that you actually access in the most efficient way, and then you saved 8 kilograms of CO2 because you got the tube there. That's the reporting. That's what we want to get to.
Yeah.
And that can be live. And when you get those inputs right, as we said, then you don't have the garbage.
Data in, data out, garbage in, garbage
That's
out.
it. And then it doesn't take much.
Yeah.
And with just a little bit of additional thinking, that value to clients is huge.
Yeah.
Then that value goes down to the individual when it's communicated, because then it's put into regular comms, then it's integrated into their environments. But you have to have the conversation this way.
Yeah.
Otherwise, we'll continue to have it the way we always have.
Yeah. Yeah. There's well, as I was saying, there's a data gap, there's a thinking gap, there's a action gap,
But it's coming.
and a communication gap. Yeah, it's coming, and it takes work like you're doing with Bupa, and obviously JAAQ, and that could be our segue there. But yeah, the more we narrow that gap, the more we layer good data infrastructure, on top of each other, month after month, year after year, we see recovery, happen quicker on a more sustainable basis, and actually move to prevention. That's ultimately the holy grail, right? When we talk about health and well-being, it's not from an angle of how do we help cure sick people faster. No, it's how do we prevent people from getting sick as often in the first place. We're never going to stop people from getting a cold or COVID back in
No.
COVID days, or
having mental health concerns. Like, it's going to happen.
absolutely, yeah. Or eating a dodgy sandwich and getting an upset stomach. Like, these things happen, right? You're never going to avoid these, these anomalies, if you will. But it's the consistencies, like you say, where you're not looking after yourself physically or mentally, and you end up having to go down the care correction pathway. In many, many cases, it is avoidable. And like you say, until we have that tangible, realizable value, that is very, very clear for everyone to understand, not just the employee in terms of feeling better, higher sense of belonging to our employer, but fitter and healthier overall, but actually the business say, yes, I can categorically say that our business has achieved X, Y, or Z more dollars on the bottom line, or actually saved ABC dollars, on the bottom line. That's where we've got to get to. And I think, these initiatives that you're doing will certainly help towards that, because that's definitely one of the biggest challenges we face at Level is, a client will say, well, how do I measure the ROI? And it's a great question. And almost every organization is different, because they may have different
That's the
struggle or
with
challenges,
the
right?
generic research. They're all different.
Yeah.
They're all going to have different challenges, and you actually have to work with them a bit more to understand that in detail.
Yeah.
Well, the headline things that you're trying to address are the same. How you get there,
Yeah.
they'll be diametrically different from A business to B.
Yeah. Yeah. And ultimately working with Level or JAAQ is not a plaster or a band-aid to put over cracks, but actually it's a vehicle to actually help you think more, right? And create more data, and then think and act on that data, as opposed to just
and use you to help we communicate the value, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. But if you don't have that data in the first place, you don't do the thinking, there's nothing to communicate, right? Because nothing will ever change.
That's gonna be a tricky conversation next year at renewal, isn't it?
Yeah, it always is. And sadly, and I think, this is a sad and sorry state of affairs that we see in the market, particularly here at the moment, is that the level of investment, the level of care, may I say, particularly when it comes to investing in employee health and well-being, has declined significantly year on year, from probably 23 through 24 and again this year. Why? Because there's no clear way that the organization has set. And again, we always get looked at as the provider of an answer to a question that should be asked and answered by the corporate itself or the organization itself, which is, well, how do I measure a return? It's like, well, what are your problems? Is it retention? Is it attrition? Is it productivity? Is it NPS? Is it belonging? Whatever it might be.
Time spent in meetings for us.
Absolutely. And again, in almost every case, they don't have the data. Therefore, they can't ask the question, and they certainly cannot answer it. And we're caught in that vicious circle. And like I said, as much as I will dedicate my life's work, and as you're dedicating your life's work to solving for this, it's a really bloody difficult problem to solve because of those barriers, almost insurmountable barriers that sit in our way. However, we'll keep on trying. Level will keep on trying. JAAQ will keep on trying. And JAAQ is an amazing platform. For those that are watching or listening, could you quickly kind of summarize what JAAQ is, how it works, where, and the evolution of the platform, and I guess your role at JAAQ?
Yeah, so essentially short form video content. So we've got about 40 to 50,000 answers now on platform, 130 different topics, with celebrities next to experts and people who've been through it. So lived experience versus expert. So I share my experience of bulimia. Then we got Professor Janet Treasure, who's essentially wrote the book on eating disorders in the UK. And what will happen is the person sitting in the chair looks like Hogwarts. They're moving around waiting for you, and you can ask them a question. So you can just ask the question. That's what JAAQ stands for.
Gotcha.
And it started with Danny Gray, our founder. He struggled with BDD, started a men's makeup brand called War Paint for men. He was on Dragon's Den, got investment and stuff like that. Yeah, I actually had to get War Paint when I filmed in the chair because I split my head open on a spicy margarita the day before I filmed.
Very spicy, extra spicy margarita.
It was, yeah. The waiter walked into my head as I sat down.
Oh, so it wasn't even your fault?
No, well, apparently it was. I sat down violently because I had a cut doing myself. But so we had that sort of. So my first interaction with JAAQ, I was getting wall paint put on my head, but it was quite funny.
Yeah.
So he found that people resonated with his story potentially more on the platform itself. How brave he shared this on like Good Morning Britain, on ITV This Morning, and everything was amazing. And he developed a proof of concept with David Harewood, Alistair Campbell, and a few other people sharing content just in that short form video. And it's like you can then sit there, ask some questions, and then he found a huge response overnight. There's something here.
Yeah.
We immediately realised we weren't going to be able to achieve scale if we didn't then work with organisations to essentially support them.
Yeah.
I joined not too long after that, to be honest, leaving a lucrative Deloitte partnership to join a scrappy startup. But
So you'd gone back to Deloitte
yeah,
a second time,
yeah,
and then you
I saw this.
built a big kind of, division or I guess an internal agency.
Yeah, like business. Yeah,
Business unit within Deloitte, and then you leave.
I sacked it off.
Sacked it off. Yeah, well done. Yeah, but it worked out. So,
that was
fortune favors the brave, and
2 years ago.
yeah, a brave move.
Yeah, because I was on a panel with Richard Norris, one of the leaders of Bupa UK, awesome bloke, and they were interviewing me, and I just ripped my trousers on the way there on the tube, all the way around. I was sitting with 6 cameras facing.
There's some things wall paint can't fix.
I was worried I was gonna like expose myself to all these people in this like Bupa live stream. I don't think it happened, but anyway, we were laughing about that, and JAAQ were announcing their partnership on this call, which I was speaking on, representing Deloitte with Richard and other people.
Right. Gotcha.
And they messaged, they were like, we really like the way you talk about this stuff, make it really data-led, it seems objective. We'd love you to come and see what we're doing. Went to see, joined shortly after. So we've launched with NatWest, Bupa, nationwide. We've got this workplace platform, which has much more content. And we then filmed the leaders in the businesses. So we actually got the chief people officer of Nationwide sit on the platform. Her content has been viewed 12,000 times. There's 17,000 people. It's now integrated into L&D efforts, onboarding for new joiners. They sit down and talk with Lynn about her experience of losing her mum. That sets the cultural tone.
Yeah.
That closes the power difference in the business. Then speaking about do as I say, not as I do, that 30%, that closes that gap.
Yeah.
When you come here, this is how you can do things. We then film with like 23 different people on benefits at Workday. So actually film with the other benefits providers, demystifying what's often misunderstood, and then linking people through. So it's like a wrapper.
Yeah.
A wrapper for all these difficult topics where you would not want to ask a manager to share stories in the business. So this is how we do things here.
Yeah.
And then to then point people to benefits which are often severely underutilized because people are flat out and it's buried in the corner of a SharePoint.
Yeah.
And that is the whole point of it. But it's evolving now. So you've been working essentially with a large language model, which is a conversation. You have a conversation with it. It guides you through the content. It does not provide therapy. It does not suggest anything. It essentially is a guide through the content, and then really smart signposting then to the other benefits. We're looking then to push people to less severe pathways, which will then offset the average cost of the treatment, which will enable people to get care faster. And because it looks really cool and feels like social media, it's being used heavily in each business.
Yeah.
So I think it's like nearly 70,000 answers nationwide now, about 5-6 months after launch.
Wow.
And they're saying now it's launching with essentially with like another part of the business, and we're going to be putting it into branches.
Yeah.
That actually can be used for customers. So we've got a free site, we've got the workplace site, we've got amazing work we do with Bupa. And then also we're going to be launching a platform for kids in February, which will be free to WOOW. So JAAQ Junior, which is kids sharing their experience, and it's amazing.
Yeah.
That'll be a thing we're known for. I'm hoping we'll create legacy, and it is severely needed.
100%. And I think, to your point, you kind of said it off the cuff, it looks cool, but so many things that are designed to actually help people from whether it's a clinical perspective, health, well-being, they simply don't look or feel engaging.
You don't what do you expect? Sermon, honestly,
what do you expect? So I think, yes, the content is awesome. I've seen, a lot of the content that you guys have created, and the platform is awesome. And you don't mind being taken on a journey then, like you say, signposted and directed or guided, right?
Right now it's self-guided, and this new version will be guided through content. Would you want to package this up and share it with someone you care about, and then it'll essentially augment and then serve that? If it's integrated then into teams, it's in the environment that someone needs it. /JAAQ, anxiety, colleagues struggling with it. They don't understand how to support that person.
Yeah.
We had someone at Bupa, a manager, when their team told her they were trans, she had no idea how to support them. Then she watched all the content, and then that was shared.
Yeah.
Then we also then had other people would like sharing stories of miscarriage, bereavement, all these other things. And simply people would not know where to turn otherwise. They come to the platform, got that support, and then shared.
Yeah. No, it's amazing. And very excited about JAAQ Junior. It's having, see my boys growing up and already, wondering, oh my goodness, how am I going to answer some of their questions? And actually, what on earth are their questions going to be? Because they're growing up in a very different world, not only a very different world to what I grew up in, but also in a very different location, right? Surrounded by a much wider range of cultures, nationalities, religions. So their little heads are getting filled with, I guess, or exposed to much wider array of things than I was privileged to get exposed to at a young age. But yeah, it's difficult. It's not easy for parents, no doubt. And even things like, seeing, reading the BBC News app, I have to hide it from them, generally speaking, because I don't want them to see the generally negative or horrible things that I'm seeing. So
Journalism's tough. I just have the FT come through with more
Yeah.
an email, and I find it's probably the best non-partisan
yeah, 100%.
journalism, which I quite enjoy.
So just to finish off, we're obviously here in Dubai. You're here to talk at the WHX conference that's happening this week at the Trade Center. Tell us a little bit about what you're going to talk about. But also, just to conclude, your viewpoint and your experience of being here in Dubai.
Cool. Yeah, so WHX is really cool actually. So I was going to be interviewed by a senior leader at Workday, at LinkedIn, sorry, and she dropped out. My girlfriend has come because she's working here as well, and she's built an amazing profile herself. She's built the fractional agency. She's the founder of it. She works with chief people officer within organizations, absolutely smashing it. So it's I know someone that's here. Yeah, she's interviewing me at the conference,
Oh, nice.
which is that's going to be really, really cool.
Yeah.
Couples who interview together,
Stay together. Yeah, okay. Certainly for at least the length of the interview, anyway.
Well, let's hope so.
Yeah.
For so much, she brills me. So what we're speaking about is the content is called Rewriting the Wellbeing Algorithm, the Future of Healthcare. Well, we don't have a specific algorithm.
Yeah.
It's about how we're leveraging AI in a really narrow fashion to make sure we do it efficiently, to shorten the process, to serve people human content and get them to human faster.
Yep.
So it's about the really neat use cases that we're finding, and we're breaking it down for talk, watch, connect.
Yep.
So the conversation, the empathy, and you watch the content, and then you're connected to where you need to go.
Yep.
So I'm going to be talking through those use cases, the impact with clients to date, and then how we intend to use that to scale and then reach 1 billion people with the platform. So that's what we're talking about, but it's about how we do it safely, how we give enough data to the organization to make change, but not enough that it doesn't encroach on the individual and can make sure that they feel safe. And then how we intend to use that to then take that for the kids, a free platform, and then essentially change the world. Easy peasy.
Easy, yeah.
And
Like conversation then.
yeah, we're good.
With your minutes on stage.
Got 20 minutes.
It's nice. Oh, easy.
Got
Done.
25 minutes, but we'll make space for questions as well. So I'm going to have to rattle through it a fair old clip. But
I'm sure you'll be fine.
yeah, it's been really fun. I love it. I was filming yesterday, doing the event tomorrow, and then do another event with Ben Apple and some other clients on Thursday, which is going to be amazing. And then got enough time to relax, and just leaving London when it's miserable and then coming out here makes me think, why am I going back? So definitely putting in the yard to see what it could look like to move here.
Yeah.
And if I take my girlfriend's opinion on that, I'll be here in a couple of months, I think.
Good. Well, I hope to see you back here. I really do appreciate you coming on. It's been incredible to watch, the evolution of your content, the evolution of your role within this space, and actually taking a leading role, not just within Deloitte, within one organization, but within, an industry that quite frankly struggles. Like I said, corporate health and wellness really does struggle still. And it's amazing to see the work that you're doing and continuing to put yourself out there in traditional ways, such as writing books, innovative ways, such as talking to people from the toilet, and anything in between, and keep going and pushing yourself, ultimately outside your comfort zone. Like you said, you still get those butterflies, and I think that's great because it shows that you genuinely care about what you're talking about, and having that impact on 1 billion people on their mental health or physical health or anything in between. So really appreciate you coming on. We'll drop the link in the comments to your book, and for anybody that hasn't followed Ryan on LinkedIn, please do, because you won't regret it. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you very much.